topic to share about. And I think about it in terms of a lot of different things, but one of them is the quality of a champion. And one of the qualities of a champion is the ability to rise just one more time than they fall, you know. And I think about Misa, you asked about, hey, who was that person that I shared yesterday? I was on this global call, and one of the leaders, one of the presidents, called out this person, said, I just want you to see this person. He doesn't have to say much, but I'm just going to put him on. Showed his visual, and here he was. He was in hospital, in the midst of operations, and you couldn't see it was like a cross on his face where they'd been operating, and so you could just see his eyes, and they were back around it. And he'd been in a car accident. His car was written off, and he was in the midst of multiple operations, but he was still plugging into Zoom calls, and that was one of them. And training and encouraging his members in between operations. Wow, that's a person that's been through traumatic. Many people would have just went, oh man, this is so hard out. But in between operations, what had that person done? He's a doctor, I can't remember his name, but he was rising above it and making the most in between even operations. What about, these are all kinds of things that happen in our lives, like crisis, lulls or plateaus, and it's about what we do in those times. And you hear me share sometimes about what's happened inside in my life in the past. You know, when the worst crisis happens in your life, or maybe it doesn't have to be, but when the worst crisis happens, that reveals where we're at. And it's about what we learn and what we glean and what we do from that time to move forward from there. And it takes real honesty to see where we're at. And if we cannot be honest, we cannot move forward properly. And so I love that my worst crisis taught me so much about life. It taught me about the finiteness of life. It talked about responsibly, don't blame. 100% responsibility is up to me if I want to make a go of life, and much more. And so, you know, what do you do when crisis? Do you fold? That's it. Or do you go, I'm going to rise again. I don't know how I'm going to rise again. It may take me 1 month, it takes 2 years, whatever it takes, I will rise again, you know. And so important to be able to get down to what we believe about who we are as a person, and about where we want to go in life, what we're passionate about, what motivates us, because there is only one life. That's what I learned. So the other area, because I talked about crisis, is the low plateau. You know, what do you do when you get to that? In business, in relationship, in life itself. You know, some people will go in business when they spend 5 minutes in it, and they'll go, it doesn't work for me. Well, did you really work it? Honestly, I can't judge yourself. Did you really work it for it to, or did you just do what you've always done? The habit of giving up, the habit of, you know, letting it go when you spent only a few minutes on it, and then you went back to everything you used to do, all the habits that you used to do. What about relationship? You failed, you know, you gave your heart. I was speaking to someone in the last day, so they gave their heart, and they said at a teenage years, can you imagine, at a teenage years, said never again. Wow, can you imagine saying that? Never again to love. They gave out their heart, puppy love, gave out their heart, but never. And I spoke to them, and for basically 30 years of their life, they've lived a shell of relationship, you know. But you know what? The great thing is to hear them opening up again and saying, you know, I'm having feelings now that they haven't had since their age, and it's scary, but it's special. And you know, to hear that it's taken them 30 plus years to get where they are, but they're rising above it finally. So it doesn't matter the time as long as you rise above it. What about life itself? You know, when I was in my worst crisis, I felt like a failure, that I was nobody going nowhere. And then being able to retrench, reset, as we talked about this week, and go, you know what is my life now? Where I am at now? And then best friend coming to me and helping me out, inspiration coming from here and there, my heart opening up, and it's about our personal responsibility, as we learned from our CEO, previous CEO, Johan Stovon Holstein. Is like, take personal responsibility, and I took personal responsibility so that I could actually rise above my circumstances. So let's think about it. Let's go back to that. What's one of the qualities of a champion? It's the ability to rise up more than we fall. And I found this quote, which was about rise above it. And it says, rise above it all, not so much so that you can be seen, not so much that I can be seen, but that you or I can see it all. How important is that? Because that's what it taught me. Rising above has helped me to see the bigger picture of life, helped me to rise above problems and squabbles and arguments. It's like, it doesn't matter. Some things just don't matter. But other things are so much more important. And when we can rise above to see the bigger picture, we can make the most of life, a better life. Thank you. Back to you.